There is a sickness in men, an insidious desire to be liked. It manifests as a quiet surrender, a subtle erosion of your true self. You walk head often bowed, your inner voice eager to please, offering loyalty like a stray dog offers its belly for acceptance. This isn't kindness, it's your first internal death. You were taught that unwavering loyalty is a virtue. It is not. It is a leash your mind ties around its own neck. The self that gives it freely becomes a slave to validation. And the inner master, your own fear or conditioning that demands it without true desert, becomes a tyrant over your potential. In both cases, your true self suffers. Consider the dog within you, the part of your mind that craves praise, that yearns for acceptance, that has been subtly bred for submission to external validation. This isn't merely an outer behavior. It's an inner conditioning. Its instincts, your innate drive for self-preservation and independent thought, are dulled. Its teeth, your capacity for firm boundaries and self-defense, are offered not to hunt your own truth, but to defend the perceived comfort of external approval. What the world applauds as loyalty in you at its core is a quiet surrender of your own internal sovereignty. This internal dog lives not for its true self, but for the hand that feeds it validation. It finds peace when permitted to conform. It feels worthy when praised for being useful to others' expectations. It is inwardly punished by self-doubt when disobedient to external desires. This creature, though seemingly noble in its dedication to fitting in, embodies the very essence of internal dependence. It becomes a slave to affection, addicted to external approval, and paralyzed by the rejection of others' opinions. In your own life, whether in your personal ambitions, your professional path, or your relationships, the mind that behaves like this inner dog is profoundly limited. It's constantly seeking external validation. It wags at praise from others. It recoils in internal disfavor at their criticism. Such a mind will forever remain at the feet of others' expectations. It will never truly lead its own life, for genuine leadership demands independence of thought, a tolerance for mental solitude, and a ruthless capacity to act without the applause of the crowd. This internal dog, conditioned to fear mental disapproval, cannot think beyond the desires of others. It does not move by its own true will. It waits for unspoken commands from its perceived master, be it society, family, or even a single influential voice. This is the first, most subtle form of internal death, the death of personal command over your own inner world. Such a mind will not survive in a world where external forces like wolves and lions constantly seek to exploit internal weaknesses. Look around your internal landscape, the court of your own self-judgment, the marketplace of comparison, the street of daily pressures. All are filled with inner predators, your fears, your doubts, the voices of past criticisms. These predators don't bark, they don't beg, they don't announce their presence. They observe your internal state. They calculate your weaknesses. They choose their moment to strike your peace. The inner dog, desperate to be seen, to be accepted by its own internal narrative of goodness, reveals its entire soul through its mental reactions, its intentions, its fears, its desires. All are plainly read by the more cunning parts of your own subconscious, or by external influences that exploit these patterns, and what is internally exposed is easily exploited externally. The true tragedy of the inner dog within your mind isn't its loyalty to external ideals. It's the illusion it clings to. That internal voice believes by being kind to every impulse, by being obedient to every societal expectation, by being harmless in your own convictions, you will be spared. It believes this internal harmlessness guarantees eternal acceptance and love. But this is the brutal truth about your own internal landscape. Emotional attachments fade. Circumstances change without your permission. Even the masters of your own internal narrative, like self-imposed rules or outdated beliefs, can grow bored and abandon you. And when true danger arises, when real-world challenges demand decisiveness, no one shelters the inner dog of your mind. It's either sacrificed first to the onslaught of reality or left to fend for itself, its teeth. Your innate capacity for self-preservation and assertive action have been dulled by years of internal domestication. The part of your mind that cannot hunt for its own truths or fight for its own boundaries, that cannot survive without constant external affection, this becomes an internal burden. And internal burdens, like external ones, are discarded by the unforgiving nature of life. In times of internal conflict, when your own doubts or fears attack, this dog-like part of your mind cannot truly defend. It may bark a warning, ruminating, panicking, but it lacks the inner courage or cunning to strike decisive action or silence its own debilitating fears. It relies on external validation or the hope that external circumstances will change to save it. And because of this, your own mind is never truly feared by the chaos it encounters. To be internally unfearable is to be powerless over yourself. For true power does not reside in how much your internal narratives are loved by external approval. It resides in how dangerous your own disciplined mind is perceived to be by your weaknesses, by your fears, by those who seek to exploit your internal comfort. A mind with the heart of a dog, constantly seeking validation, avoiding internal conflict, cannot command its own respect. Only a fleeting self-generated sympathy. But internal sympathy builds no mental empires, it secures no personal victory. It does not keep the knife of regret or anxiety from your own inner throat. This widespread worship of the dog's traits, internal loyalty to comfort, obedience to unexamined social norms, gentleness with your own self-sabotaging impulses, is a potent tool. It's used by the very forces, both external and internal, that seek to maintain control over your mind. They preach these virtues not because they inherently empower you, but because they actively weaken the part of you that seeks independence. The minds that truly command power do not live like emotional dogs. They allow others to teach you to. They observe with a calculating patience as your inner dog defends outdated beliefs, fights internal battles for external approval, and serves the ambition of fitting in, all while believing it's fulfilling some noble internal destiny. But nobility without true autonomy over your own mind is just another word for internal servitude. The part of you that chooses the dog's life believes internal safety lies in being perpetually agreeable, in always yielding your true convictions, in never posing a threat by asserting your unique self. This inner beast fears internal conflict more than the perceived humiliation of external disapproval. It fears the punishment of self-criticism more than the suffocating mediocrity of its own stagnation. It learns to internally anticipate the needs of others not out of wisdom but out of a deep primal fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen as anything genuinely powerful or dangerous to the status quo. Its internal tongue is quick with apologies even when no offense was given simply to maintain harmony. Its inner eyes are always seeking permission from external cues before taking action. It does not move its own potential unless given a clear signal from others' expectations. It does not speak its truth unless explicitly invited. It walks through life under the dangerous illusion that internal harmlessness, the avoidance of strong opinions or boundaries, is the highest form of goodness, when in truth it is the fastest path to mental irrelevance and personal stagnation. The mind with a dog's heart lives on the invisible leash of public opinion. It thrives on internalizing praise. It wilts under internalizing criticism. A single word of external approval uplifts it. A perceived raised eyebrow from others breaks its internal resolve. It cannot withstand genuine internal tension or the silence of self-reflection because it has never cultivated true inner fortitude. It cannot command its own internal respect because it has never dared to be feared by its own weaknesses or the pressures of conformity, meaning it has never cultivated the robust inner strength to say no. It clings to the illusion that external loyalty, kindness, or subservience will guarantee its internal influence or personal elevation. But your internal world does not operate on such fantasies. True self-command respects only the mind that can act without external need. The mind that can take initiative without constantly asking for validation. The mind that can stand alone in its convictions and not tremble. Look closely at the psychology of those who truly rise. They are never the ones most eager to please the internal or external crowd. The eager to please internal mindset is tolerated, used, and ultimately discarded by its own unfulfilled potential and by the harsh realities of life. It is like a dog invited to the table not to dine but to sit quietly underneath hoping for scraps. When the internal feast of life is finished, it is thrown a meager scrap of external validation, and it wags its internal tail in gratitude, considering its mental state lucky. It calls this life noble, this comfort-seeking existence. It mistakes proximity to external power or influence for true internal power over itself. But when internal famine comes a lack of external validation, or when war arrives a genuine conflict demanding internal resolve, or when a more useful beast appears, a stronger, more self-reliant version of your own mind, the dog-like mindset is cast out without hesitation. Because affection, external validation is not the same as internal necessity. The dog in your mind lives under the rule of those who do not live like internal dogs. Your inner king, your true self, does not kneel to the dictates of external opinion. Your inner general, your strategic mind, does not seek the approval of every passing thought or societal pressure. Your inner master, your self-command, does not apologize for its decisive actions. The natural order of true internal command is built on distance from external noise, on self-discipline, and on an unshakable willingness to act without constant external consent. Your internal self, the inner dog, in stark contrast to true self-mastery, cannot bear the weight of inner loneliness, of internal disapproval, of the silence that comes from truly being with yourself free from external noise. It needs to be mentally seen to be called good by others, to be told it belongs to a group or a prevailing belief. This desperate internal need is its cage. This is the beast driving your deepest insecurities. Worse still, this inner dog cannot see the chain that binds it. It believes itself free because it is not overtly beaten by direct punishment. It believes itself chosen because it is fed with superficial validation. It believes itself loved because it is tolerated when it avoids challenging norms. But the moment your mind disobeys its ingrained conditioning, the brutal truth is revealed. The leash of external validation tightens. The hand, once gentle with fleeting praise, becomes firm with judgment. The voice, once warm with acceptance, grows cold with perceived rejection. It is not true love for your authentic self that binds this dog-like mind to its master of external approval. It is fear, fear of isolation, fear of not belonging disguised as loyalty to conformity. This internal creature has been conditioned to confuse mere acceptance with genuine self-worth or survival. It is not honored for its true nature. It is conditioned to obey not because it genuinely agrees with the path it's on, but because it has simply forgotten how to choose its own path. Observe this inner dog in moments of true internal stress or crisis, when its master, the source of external validation, is absent, when real internal danger looms like a tough decision or deep self-doubt, when hunger for authentic purpose strikes. It does not know what to do. It paces mentally. It waits for a sign. It whines with anxiety. It cannot act on its own because it has been internally praised for obedience to external norms and punished for showing initiative and self-direction. It has learned that its own instincts are untrustworthy, that safety lies only in internal surrender to comfortable patterns. And so in a personal crisis, this part of your mind fails. It is either paralyzed by its own internal fear or frantic with confusion. It is useless to itself and hinders your true potential. It has traded its internal claws, its assertiveness, its critical thought, its courage to be alone for temporary comfort from external approval, and in doing so it has lost both. In the theater of power, the complex stage of your own mind, it is not the naive, honest self that truly rules. It is the mask of disciplined intent. And the most effective mask, the truest symbol of internal mastery, is the inner wolf. This inner wolf is not merely a beast of external prey. It is the embodiment of calculated internal strength, of unwavering restraint in emotional reaction, and of absolute precision in mental action. It is not born out of mental chaos, but out of absolute internal necessity for survival and dominion over your own thoughts. In a world where internal voices tear your peace apart with endless rumination, with self-imposed rules and with false virtues, to walk openly as a purely good or naive internal self is foolish. But to lack the inner wolf, this capacity for self-discipline, for setting firm mental boundaries, for ruthless self-honesty, is fatal to your own mental well-being and power. The wise man does not abandon this inner wolf. He wears it beneath his skin, integrates it deeply hidden from immediate view, patient, always watching his own internal landscape and external interactions. This inner wolf does not seek internal approval from fleeting thoughts or external validation from others. It does not wag its tail mentally or pant for emotional affection. It is silent in its inherent internal dignity. It is solitary in its unshakable internal strength. While the inner dog looks to the group of external opinions for mental protection, the inner wolf trusts only its own instincts, your intuition, your sharp self-awareness, and its teeth, your capacity for decisive self-serving action and firm mental boundaries. It does not howl for attention. It doesn't seek sympathy or recognition for its internal struggles. Instead, it howls to signal command, asserting its internal authority over your own thoughts and emotions. In the pack of your own internal priorities and desires, this inner wolf rises through demonstration of its own dominance, consistent self-discipline, taking charge of your own mental processes, not by begging for external favor or internal comfort. It understands internal hierarchy, prioritizing your true self-mastery over fleeting desires or external demands, not as a prison but as a ladder to be climbed. Not through empty mental chatter, but through calculated internal force, disciplined action, and unyielding self-control. To wear the wolf as a mask, to exercise strategic internal discipline, is not to lose your humanity, but to protect it. Those who parade all their internal intentions or vulnerabilities openly through oversharing or impulsive emotional outbursts are quickly dismantled by external manipulation or internal chaos. The mind that shows its entire nature, every fear, every doubt, is at the mercy of more cunning external forces or insidious internal self-sabotage. The inner wolf understands that mental concealment, a composed internal state, is your ultimate protection. It does not roar with impulsive emotions when threatened. It waits in silence, observes the flaw in the situation or its own initial reaction, and bites, acts decisively only when the internal outcome, clarity, advantage is absolutely assured. The foolish mind strikes from raw emotion. The wolf-like mind strikes from absolute certainty. Power over your mind requires not just action but impeccable timing. And internal timing is the wolf's gift. The inner wolf knows how to wait. It is not hurried by internal fear or seduced by false hope. It does not lunge at every impulsive thought or fleeting opportunity, but stalks, the best one, the most effective mental strategy. The art of internal predation is not found in mental noise, endless overthinking, but in the stillness before the mental kill, the decisive, well-considered action. While other parts of your mind run toward the bait, distractions, easy validation, the inner wolf circles it. It sees the trap, potential mental pitfalls long before it is sprung. This is why the inner wolf survives where other parts of the mind perish. Not because it is faster or stronger in raw capacity, but because it is patient, perceptive, and willing to do what the virtuous, comfort-seeking part of the mind will not. The inner wolf is not cruel. Cruelty is the mark of internal desperation. It kills, makes decisive internal cuts, discards unproductive thoughts not for pleasure but for necessity, mental clarity, and efficiency. It wastes no energy on internal revenge or emotional outrage. It is relentlessly efficient in its internal operations. It understands that internal fear of its own discipline is a sharper tool than internal comfort derived from seeking external love. And that internal silence, composed self-control, is louder than any internal pleading for validation. The part of your mind that embodies the wolf projects an internal presence that doesn't need to prove itself or to others. There is no internal barking, no mental display, no desperate internal speech, just the certainty of consequence. That is power over your mind. The mind that wishes to be truly safe must cultivate a form of internal danger. Not loud, not reckless, but precisely dangerous to its own weaknesses. There is a difference between mental noise and true internal threat. The dog in your mind barks to warn, to frighten, to create the illusion of strength. But it barks because it harbors fear. The wolf within, in contrast, does not need to bark. Its inner presence is enough. Its stillness, its composure in the face of internal chaos, speaks louder than the frantic cries of the desperate parts of your mind. That is the art of internal dominance. To think little of distraction, to do much of self-mastery, and to let your internal silence carry the weight of your unshakable resolve. When you look into your own mental eyes and see that you will not flinch from hard truths, that you will not beg for external validation, that you will not hesitate in self-discipline, your weaknesses will not test you twice. The mind that cannot be internally feared by its own impulses cannot be truly respected by itself. It may be liked by external approval. It may be pitied in its struggles. But it will not be trusted with true responsibility over its own destiny. Your inner leaders, your decision-making faculties are not chosen for their warmth towards comfort, but for their capacity to make hard internal decisions without trembling. A prince, your true self, who cannot punish its own self-sabotage, is a mere figurehead. A general, your strategic mind, who hesitates in retaliation against encroaching doubts, is a coffin for its own potential. A part of your mind that cannot say no with finality to distractions will be used until it is empty. Your internal world is filled with the corpses of the agreeable, pleasant thoughts. Soft excuses, mental habits that smiled too often and struck too little at their own limitations. Internal fear is not a flaw. It is a tool properly harnessed within yourself. It clears mental obstacles faster than any self-negotiation. A single act of calculated internal brutality, ruthless self-honesty, is remembered longer than 100 kind self-delusions. Internal mercy is admirable only when it comes from the strong, the disciplined mind. When the weak parts of your mind show mercy to their own laziness, it is not seen as nobility but as helplessness. An internal helplessness in this world is an invitation for your own potential to be devoured. The predator, your higher self, does not negotiate with prey, your weaker impulses. He devours it, and the mind that carries no fangs, no capacity for self-assertion, no internal fortitude that recoils from inner conflict, that whines when threatened by discomfort, offers itself as that prey. To understand this is to understand how to truly move through your own internal world. Your mind must not cry out when internally wounded. It must not explain itself when challenged by doubt. It must not appeal to fairness. Fairness is a fiction maintained by those your comfort zones empower to pacify those your ambitious self without it. Your internal world does not care what you deserve, only what you can internally take and hold through discipline and focus. If you wish to avoid being dominated by your own impulses, you must radiate the capacity to dominate yourself. You must not boast internally, but you must never yield to weakness. You must train your internal face to show no panic, your voice to carry no desperation, your hands to steady even in mental betrayal. The fangs are not merely external weapons, they are internal symbols. The difference between the powerful and the powerless mind is not in their morality, but in their willingness to act without permission from their own fears. The mind with fangs does not wait for internal conditions to be perfect. It creates conditions through action. It knows that kindness towards its own weaknesses without internal leverage is weakness, and mental diplomacy with self-sabotage without the threat of internal force is noise. The inner self that can destroy old habits but chooses not to indiscriminately, that is strength. The inner self that cannot destroy old habits and pleads to be spared, that is a victim of its own making. Even in the so-called civilized world of your own thoughts, the same principle holds. In the politics of your mind, the part that can ruin reputations, discredit old limiting beliefs is heard. In the business of your pursuits, the part that can walk away from the table from unproductive thoughts or overturn it, challenge assumptions, commands terms. In your personal dealings, the mind that is known to punish betrayal of its own standards without warning is not betrayed twice by its own lapses. The whisper of internal capability backed by proven ruthlessness against self-sabotage reshapes how your own mental processes behave. They measure their words. They tread carefully. They offer you mental clarity and focus that they would never offer to a whimpering supplicant of a mind. There is no honor in becoming an internal martyr to a principle that no longer serves you. If your internal enemies, your fears, doubts, celebrate your fall, your mind must learn to be steel in velvet, soft in external speech, deadly in internal deed. You must cultivate the ability to appear calm externally while being capable of profound internal discipline. When your presence is felt in any room, it is better they fear crossing your internal boundaries than forget your internal resolve was ever there. The mental whimper is forgotten. The internal fang is remembered. It is written into the laws of nature, into the instinct of man, into the halls of history. Those who possess internal teeth, unwavering self-control, write the rules for their own lives. Those who do not obey them. No mind climbs to true internal power through universal affection. The desire to be liked by everyone or by every fleeting thought is the first shackle placed around the neck of your ambition. It dulls your instinct, softens your action, and forces your mind to calculate not what is necessary for your growth, but what is acceptable to others. And in doing so, your mind hands over its authority to the masses of opinions whose approval it seeks. The mind that wishes to rise must learn early that the currency of ascent is not popularity but clarity. And clarity demands decisions that will be despised by many, your old self, external conformists, and respected by few, those who truly understand mastery. Internal hatred is not failure. It is a signal. It tells you that you have ceased to be mere furniture in your own life, moved by every external whim, that your internal actions carry weight, that your inner presence disrupts your comfort zones. It is not the internally hated mind, the one that challenges itself, that is in danger, but the mind everyone, including itself, forgets to fear. True internal power cannot exist without enemies' challenges, because power creates contrast. Those who are above your higher self must be separated from those below your lower impulses. This separation breeds internal resentment, and internal resentment, the discomfort of growth, breeds hate, the aversion to change. It is not a flaw in the design of internal power, but its cost, and only those willing to pay it will ever hold anything more than illusion. The weak mind craves affection because it thinks it will shield itself from internal struggle. It believes that if people like it, it will not strike itself with self-doubt. It believes that if it keeps everyone happy, it will be safe. But safety born of external approval is a fragile thing. It lasts only as long as others are satisfied. The moment your mind must choose between what is right for it and what is comfortable for them, it is alone. And if it is not prepared for that solitude, it will fold. The strong mind, in contrast, accepts internal isolation as the natural companion of leadership over self. He does not fear being hated by his own weaknesses. He calculates which internal hatreds are necessary for growth. It is far better to be internally feared by your own comfort zones than to be loved by your complacency if you cannot be both. And rarely can one maintain both without contradiction. Internal love for comfort for old habits is conditional, based on fantasy and expectation. It demands performance, consistency, self-erasure. One misstep and that internal love turns cold. But internal fear, the disciplined aversion to weakness, survives missteps. It lingers long after internal affection for comfort fades. It keeps your mental processes in line even when they no longer agree with your higher goals. It silences internal betrayal and sharpens obedience to your true will. And when this internal fear is coupled with self-respect, it becomes the foundation of unshakable internal authority. To be willing to be hated by your own comfort zone is to free yourself from the court of public opinion within your mind. It is to act on your own terms. It is to move without explanation internally, to punish self-sabotage without apology, to speak your truth when other parts of your mind remain silent. It is to take what other parts of your mind are too timid to touch, the difficult decisions, the uncomfortable changes. Those minds that are remembered, the truly self-mastered, the innovators, the internal revolutionaries, were all hated by their own old selves and external pressures in their time. Their old mental masses spat their names, their internal peers whispered against them. Their internal enemies called them evil. But history of self-mastery does not ask if they were liked. It asks if they won over themselves. The mind that tries to be liked by all becomes harmless. It is so busy softening its truths, pleasing both sides of its internal debates, and avoiding offense to its own comfort, that it becomes invisible. It disappears into compromise. It forgets how to say no to its own weaknesses. It becomes the tool others use to enforce their will upon it. It is praised, externally validated, until it is no longer useful, and then it is discarded with the same polite smiles that once flattered it. External affection is a performance, and the moment your mind stops acting, the crowd of external opinions moves on. You must decide what matters more, the illusion of harmony or the reality of internal progress. Because true progress and self-governance in personal endeavors in your internal life always comes at the expense of someone else's comfort or your own comfort zone. You will be called cruel for being efficient with your time. You will be called arrogant for refusing to explain yourself endlessly. You will be called heartless for cutting ties with bad habits that no longer serve you. Let them speak. Their words are the sound of your assent. They are not judges, only spectators, bitter that they did not dare do the same. If you are not hated by some parts of your old self or external critics, you are not leading your own life. You are following, or at best standing still. Internal hatred is the storm a mind must walk through if it intends to leave the ground of mediocrity behind. It will come from below, from those parts of you that wish they had your self-discipline. It will come from beside you, from those parts of you that resent your internal pace. And it will come from above, from your own fears that your true potential may take their place. But the mind that stops walking because of the internal wind never sees the view from the top. The path to internal dominance is not paved with gentleness, nor adorned with the praise of the many. It is carved with sharp internal intent, forged through discomfort and sustained by the ruthless refusal to be internally tamed. The world does not reward the internally harmless. It uses them, silences them, or forgets them. To rise above the pack of your own limiting beliefs, you must not merely reject internal weakness. You must hunt it within yourself and kill it. The dog, obedient, eager, fragile, must die within your mind. So the wolf, a creature that does not beg, does not whimper, does not wait for internal permission, may emerge. A creature that understands that survival is not granted, it is taken. Let others seek virtue in internal submission. You, if you dare, must become the thing your old self fears to speak of. Not for cruelty's sake, but for self-mastery. Not to destroy indiscriminately, but to never be destroyed from within.